for Slade, you know. The guy who's doing the Morales on Teen Titans, I think he's doing a wonderful job, you know, and I've enjoyed watching some of his stuff. A friend brought over the episodes the other day. I hadn't seen it, so we binge-watched a few episodes. And I think Teen Titans is doing a really good job on the relationship drama stuff, like a really good job. You know, in the way that they shoot the fight scenes, sometimes I'm looking at it going like, oh man, I wish I got to, you know, fight at that level of, you might want to call it reality, a little bit more, you know, like a little bit grittier, you know. It's very good. And so, you know, I've got nothing but adulation for his style of Deathstroke. You know, whether they're going to go ahead and make a separate movie still with Joe Manganiello or whoever, I don't know. But you know, there's words of spin-offs coming up and stuff like that, and you know, I'm sure at some stage something's got to give, and you know, just for the fan base and for the idea of, you know, what we've accomplished so far, I'd be happy to put the mask back on and get back in there and give it a go, you know. But I can't say that season 8 is going to be the timing for that. Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
Wait up! I just got offered a free hug. Did I get offered a free hug? There you go.
Janine.
Janine, thank you for the free hug, darling. Yeah, thank you. She went like this. It was nice.
Thank you for your question. I think we have a question lined up right
hello.
there.
Yeah.
Stand up, please. Hi. Thank you.
I really liked how engaging you were when you were telling that story about on Spartacus, and I was wondering, what's the funniest thing that's happened to you behind the scenes, or sort of any sort of thing you've worked on? What's the funniest thing that's happened to you on set?
Funny stuff. There's too many kids in the room to talk about the bathhouse scenes on Spartacus. But like, it was very cold shooting Spartacus. So there was sort of various ways of not sort of embarrassing yourself, but that was another story. I don't know, okay, yes. There was a time where, you know, when the blonde-haired girl on Arrow, what's her name? Katie. No, not Katie. Emily Beckett. Sorry, Emily. I just never did scenes with her, so her name. But anyway, so there was a scene where I had her at the end of season 2. Was it the end of season 2? And I had her in a sort of a headlock, and kind of, you know, Stephen Amell came out and he said, "Let her go." Oh my God. No, I've got Mirakuru in my system. But I was standing there, and basically, you know, because Deathstroke's so gullible to getting a back fist from a secretary, you just got to read between the lines. But anyway, so I had her in a sort of chokehold, and she had to do kind of like this backhand and whack me with a needle, you know, and get me in the neck. And yeah, she was holding this thing, and I'm just thinking, like, you know, she's going to do something. But like that guy, when you get adrenaline and you're on a filming set and it's your first time to do something really physical, because Emily probably hadn't had many fight scenes, so in this moment she really, I don't know, like the energy, the electricity went through her system. She just went, and she hit me in the mouth and like split my lip, and it was sort of bleeding. And it was kind of embarrassing because, you know, I'm Deathstroke. Like Emily, like, it was just like, you know, and anyway, it was, everybody laughed. I didn't think it was very funny, but everybody else laughed. And, you know, when you look at it like, you know, he's meant to be Deathstroke, you know, and like, whoa, you know. And then suddenly the blonde-haired secretary goes, he's like, oh, look, I'm bleeding. Medic, bring my agent. No, but yeah, something like that.
Thank you. Let's see, questions, if you can raise your hand. We have one in the front, and then 2, 3, yeah.
Hi. At your birthday, you showed a picture of Matthew.
Say again, sorry?
At your birthday.
Just a little closer to your mouth. Yeah, thank you.
You showed a picture of Matthew. And I know from a very similar situation that these are the times that, that you get to know who your real friends are. So when Matthew showed up at your side of the hospital bed, what thoughts crossed your mind? Did he explain anything about it, or was it just perfectly clear that suddenly he was the one being there?
Okay, so the question she's asking me, referring to, is that when I was young, I was involved in a car accident and my mother was killed and I was injured. Like the scars that I have on my face, a lot of people think they're makeup from Spartacus, but they're actually because I was thrown out of a car when we got hit by a drunk driver. Drunk driver hit our family car and it spun into a telegraph pole and my mother was killed and I was thrown out of the window and I was unconscious for 2 weeks in hospital in a coma. And I woke up and my worst enemy was at my bedside in the hospital. And, you know, I'd come conscious a couple of times, barely, and my father had been there a couple of times. And I remember just sort of seeing him sort of in a hallucination, almost hallucination kind of state. But this one time where I knew that I woke up, you know, I looked sideways and there was a guy called Matthew Sisley. And he was a guy that was from my school who hated me. He hated me. I used to wear gel in my hair and I did break dancing and I was probably a little bit, you know, I was probably a little bit of a pretty boy kind of thing, you know what I mean? And he was like, he had a really mullet, heavy metal haircut, more black, and just was aggressive, super aggressive. And he used to walk around and just always, you know, be giving me attitude, and we were almost always about to have a fight whenever I was around him. And it was such an amazing thing to come into consciousness from a near-death experience and have the one person that you imagine as your enemy, you know, there at the bedside. And subsequently, I found out that he lost his mother from his life when he was a young boy. And when he heard that I'd been in this car accident and that I'd lost my mother, it was a point of common pain and suffering, like suddenly he related to my situation so emotionally that he came to be by my side, you know. Now I use this story in Spartacus. I used it as soon as I knew that Crixus was meant to be Spartacus's enemy and that later on that they'd become brothers. I used this ignorance. I used this huge ignorance of not even accepting anything about the other person, just having a contempt for them. And that's the way that I played Crixus to start off with. Even my producer came up to me and said, Manu, what are you doing? Like, you know, Crixus is not meant to be a complete arsehole. He's meant to be kind of like tough, but we want to have the feeling that he's a champion. But people are sending us emails now, you know, all the fans of the show are saying, kill Crixus. You know, we don't want, you know, he's an arse, we don't want him in the series anymore. You know, and you're meant to have a love story in the next episode with a girl called Navia, and how are we going to sell a love story when everybody just thinks you're an arse? And I had to tell my producer the story of what I'd been through with this guy called Matthew Sisley. That once two people face the same adversary situation, that's when enemies can become friends. That's when people can identify with each other at the strongest. And the friendship that comes out of making friends from an enemy or from a perceived enemy is I think, a larger accomplishment in yourself than just meeting somebody like you and becoming friends. It takes humility. It takes a very core understanding as a human being to get beyond your own bias. It can be used in terms of racial, it can be used in terms of religious, it can be reused in terms of so many different variances of how it could work, that luckily in my life, I'd had that hardship in my life to be able to put that into the character of Crixus, and I think that's why it worked. I think maybe out of, unfortunately, the death of my mother and this situation with this guy, Matthew Sisley, my personal enemy, I was given something to put into that role. And when I did it that way, and as the episodes moved further on, I mean, I talk to people, they come up to me and they say, man, when you were on Spartacus for the first few seasons, we hated you. You know, and even my producer coming and saying, like, you know what, you're an arse, you're a complete arse in this show. We didn't employ you to be like that. It took going through a process of complete resistance to the idea of change, to the point where at the end, I think the audience was just saying, how is this ever going to work? But by that stage, they'd seen Crixus trying to crawl back from being a gladiatorial bully to being a man who could touch a girl's fingers through the bars of a cage and start seeing either the child he was and the mother that he had, or seeing a woman who could show him something outside of the violent world that he lived in. And he healed. He started to heal. And then he started to heal his relationship with Spartacus. And that was a journey that I can only explain to you as being like such a gift. You know, it's like being a piano player and being given a beautiful, beautiful piece of piano. Or being given, you know, as a painter, being given a canvas and your expression is just allowed to flow, you know. It was a real gift. You know, people come up to me and they say to me, what's your favorite character? Deathstroke, Slade Wilson, or Crixus? And it's very easy for me to say Crixus. Deathstroke was a popular culture figure that was born in the comic book world, and a wonderful thing to portray. But for me personally, on a personal journey where I had to put a lot of my life lessons into a role, I have so much gratitude for having been able to play in that television show Spartacus, because it resembled something that the whole world embraced. You know, I have people of any nationality, any religion, any culture come to me and say positive things about that show, you know, and that was a gift. Sorry, I'm taking a long time to answer some questions, but...
It's okay, thank you.
But Matthew I was with Matthew a few weeks ago for our combined 50th birthday party. You know, I called him from Russia a couple of days ago and said hello, and you know, you're only one situation away from being able to heal a relationship with somebody who's not your friend. You're only one experience away of being able to embrace your own enemy. It's a complex but a true thing, and when it happens, anything's possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.